simply seeing, another Green Runners badge on a race, now it doesn't fix it on it in its own right, but it is quite comforting just being part of a community. All that badge says to me is I care about stuff as well.
Damian Hall, thanks so much for coming on the Runners World podcast. Much appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Green Runners, because you've written a great column in an upcoming issue of Runners World. Spoiler alert for those listening, but you talk about celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the Green Runners. So could you give us a sense of what the Green Runners is and what your role was in kind of bringing it to life?
Well, thank you. Yes, it was originally it was just a WhatsApp group of I guess concerned runners. I suppose people a bit worried about climate breakdown and what was happening. This is around sort of 2019, 2020, when sort of Extinction Rebellion were doing pretty impressive protests in London. They might not have felt so impressive if they held you up on your way to work, admittedly. But I was a big fan of theirs, and I just started realizing quite a lot of runners were worried in a sort of more globally, but then also worried about the running industry, I suppose, and what were the problems and the issues. And a few of us, I got this WhatsApp group to up to 50 people actually, but then we didn't really know what to do. We tried to do a protest at one of the COPs, the one in Glasgow, which was probably 2021, I'm guessing. And then someone just said, why don't we form a running club? And it was like, oh, that's the most obvious thing in the world. Why haven't we thought of that? So I think about 10 or 12 of us had 2 Zoom calls around sort of Christmas, just over 3 years ago. And sort of just decided the Green Runners was the obvious name, and someone built a website. And we pretty much just sort of jumped in and just said, well, let's just create a thing and see what happens. And now, 3 years later, we've got 3,000 members around the world, which is mind blowing, really. Personally, I never thought it would be that scope of thing. Grateful to anyone who's joined us. It's been quite a ride. I feel like we've done some worthwhile things. It always feels like there's so much more to do. Maybe we haven't got everything right, but we're trying it, and it's just for, you don't have to be vegan, you don't have to have a stupid haircut like mine, you don't have to give up flying or give up burgers at all, any of those things. We just want all the people to join us. If anyone's just got any concern about, I suppose, the record heat we've had here in the UK this spring, yet more records tumbling. Just come along and join us. There's no pointing out that someone had a burger a month ago or anything like that. So please come and join us.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about making an effort, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we like the words, the phrase "progress, not perfection," which is possibly nicked from my physio. Actually, he's always saying, progress, not perfection. But it's you just can't be perfect on this. Everyone will have their own sort of carbon footprint. Even when we try and reduce it a lot, there'll still be something there. And anyway, that idea was actually created by BP or a PR firm advising BP. Right. Quite a while ago. They kind of had this clever idea of don't look at us, why don't all you people look at yourselves? And so there's some value in looking at a personal footprint, but not as I feel like it might have been overemphasized over time, so that we don't look at where the real problems are. When
it comes to running, because I think some people might be surprised that running on some level has a detrimental impact on the planet, because it does feel like a green thing, compared to, say, you had a racing car habit or something. It feels like, oh, well, I might be surprised some people, but my running habit is potentially having a negative impact. So tell us, where should runners be looking to make improvements?
Yeah, it is. Well, I did end up putting a book together about this stuff, and must have come out 3 years ago as well. And at the time, you couldn't really compare the different sports. There weren't really studies, but most of us, there is more research now, and most of us would probably guess, say, football, for example, has a huge footprint equivalent to sort of a small European country like Austria or something, or maybe Poland. And then sport as a whole, it has, again, like a medium-sized European country. So it's a huge, as much as we love sport and it's so inspiring, it's so useful and so healthy for people, there is a big impact. And especially, it's two things really, but the biggest thing is events. So a World Cup. In fact, the last World Cup, Football World Cup in Qatar, Mike Berners-Lee, a professor at Lancaster University, estimated that was the highest carbon event ever to happen outside of war. So yeah, a Football World Cup, for example, and usually the biggest issue of that is the flights. Obviously, if you're building stadiums and stuff, that's big as well. But usually the biggest thing is flying. And in some ways, running is good because it's not a great spectator sport. I mean, maybe that's another debate to be had, but we don't tend to sort of. We're both football fans, aren't we, Rick? And you're celebrating more than me recently, but we don't. We might travel to see our team, but
Sure.
Personally, anyway, I'm not really going to fly to watch the Boston Marathon. I might take part, but in a way that benefits running. But really, it probably is runners. The biggest impact for most runners will be how much they're traveling, and probably whether there's a flight involved. That's probably the biggest thing. And then the other area is in an individual perspective. The other area is the sportswear, and especially shoes, really. That there's a lot goes into creating them. It's a surprisingly sort of intensive process because there are so many different parts to a shoe, and then these companies often say, "Oh, well, you've done 300 miles, you should throw them away." And they're made of plastic, they're made of oil, so they don't biodegrade. But also the bigger problem there probably is just simply overconsumption of brands making another version, telling us it's better. You won't be fast unless you wear this shoe, and then throw it away. Could you throw it away next week? So it's really the two big ones are the events, especially if there's a lot of flights involved, and then the sportswear. The sportswear industry has a huge impact, actually, really, really surprising impact.
Precious little evidence with the kind of 300-mile thing, isn't it? I'm not saying it's completely without merit, but it's an excellent thing for brands to kind of to push around, isn't it? It's kind of like, okay, yeah, because I think a lot of people actually really do believe that and think, actually, after I've done 310 miles in this shoe, then therefore, regardless of what kind of shoe it is, it's got to go.
Yeah, and I was very keen when I did the book, very keen to find out where that came from, and if there was any real evidence, and I couldn't find real evidence. I did look at, I even asked, Alex Hutchinson, who's such a brilliant journalist on this side of things, on the science of running, and between us, we couldn't find definitive sort of proof of any study that said it was definitely shoes. So amongst some of us, it's almost become a little bit of a competitive hobby of how many miles can we get out of shoes, and it is different for different people. The shoes are different. The terrain you run on, body composition, your technique, those are all different things. But I can comfortably get 1,000 miles out of most of my shoes. I run on, I guess, mixed terrain. Sometimes a bit of road, sometimes more trails if I can. But I know some other good runners who say no, I can never get anywhere near that. So it does depend on a few things. But I think the thing to do is, if it was your long run shoe and it is looking a bit tattered, you don't feel quite as safe in it or comfortable, you relegate it to your sort of easy 1 hour run shoe and carry on using it like that, and then maybe even becomes the dog walking shoe or the gardening shoe, and just trying to get more life out of shoes. And then also my good friend Darren Evans, who's one of the Green Runners co-founders, launched a little company called Pair Ups, and he sells little patches for your shoes, so if they do rip in the upper, you can patch them up, and that will genuinely add some time to the shoe's life. So like you say, it benefits these companies to go, hold on, you need the new one, you need another one. So I think we can all push back a little bit on that.
In terms of races for you, like, how has it affected like the green credentials of a race, or maybe like how the mode of transfer for getting there? What impacts that had on when it comes to you actually picking and choosing which races to do over the course of a year?
Yeah, I mean, at the time when I was sort of looking into this, I'd probably fly on average 3 times a year for a race, purely for running, without really giving it much thought. And then when I realised, a flight is the highest carbon intensive thing an individual can do, I kind of thought I can't really justify all those flights that I'm doing. So I've cut right back to, I've only done 2 flights for running in 6 years. Admittedly, they were to America and back, but I have a little checklist in my head now of sort of, all right, how important to me is it really? Is it just a race I half fancy, or have I always this is my dream race that I've been working for? Because I don't think we're not at a stage where people should think about giving up flying altogether. Although I do know people who have, both runners and non-runners. But then the next question is like, could I get there in a lower carbon way? And actually, I've done UTMB and Tour de Gion 3 times since this time. And actually, I could get there on trains and buses. What makes it tricky is it takes longer and it's often more expensive, which means it's a bit of a luxury for me to go. Actually, I can afford another. I can afford the trip. Not everyone can. So yeah, no judgments there. But that's what I tend to do. And then also, then this again comes from Mike Berners-Lee. It's not something I've made up. Is sort of when you go there, can you make more of the trip? Can you turn it into a family holiday? Can you stay longer? What Jasmine Paris has done, one of our Green Runners co-founders, when she's gone over to the Barkley Marathons, she visits her brother who lives in America, and then actually her husband who goes and cruises her, he's been to a conference. They've managed to tie all that in to a tiny trip. So actually, legitimately, that they've reduced the sort of emissions of that trip because they've got so much more out of it. So yeah, I'm certainly not pointing fingers or preaching to anyone else, and it's easy for me because I've been running for about 12 years now, and I've done most of the key races I wanted to do. So I don't think people should be sort of feeling judged, or maybe it's just, I suppose, considering their behaviour a bit. But really, events need to take a bit of a lead role and incentivize lower carbon travel. Some are sort of offsetting now for maybe elite runners, which again is a huge debate about how valid that is. But really, they should be incentivizing their, there's not UTMB, but there's a race in Chamonix called Ultra Trail, what's it called? A Marathon de Mont Blanc, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And they set aside a certain amount of places for people who've got their own public transport.
Oh, great.
Can't quite remember if they're cheaper or not, but they're like guaranteed places. So they're getting the idea of, supporting the people who are making the sort of slightly more difficult choices. So those sorts of things. But I think most of us respond probably better to financial incentives. So races, I think, should be making it a bit cheaper. Charge the people who fly there a little bit more, and if someone comes on a train, make it cheaper for them. I think that is a strong message and a real change. I
like that, and I also think train travel is, it can be more expensive. It can be a little more of a faff, but it's probably more doable than a lot of people think. Even if you're getting down to like to South of France, something. I think it is actually something I've done it a few times, and it's okay actually, quite relaxing in many ways.
Yeah, I've had some nice journeys, definitely using the Eurostar, and actually it's quite good for rebooking on the way back. I've often had to rebook. You can sort of if you book far enough ahead, it's and aren't too worried about traveling at certain times, it could be pretty affordable, and then you can rebook on the way back even with, I think, a couple of hours notice. Okay. What I find is the trains are often pretty good, and then it gets to buses more locally, and that's when things start to get more interesting. But it's usually, I think, in my experience, I've been fine on the way out usually, but coming back is sometimes some rebooking. But I don't know. I mean, I am again lucky in life. I have travelled quite a lot, but before I was a runner. But it was often it's a bit of a cliche, but the joy is in the journey, and often my best memories of traveling in say Latin America were sort of looking out the bus window or just people you might meet on a bus, as much as the destinations you get to. So I'd recommend a bit more train travel.
In terms of it's been 3 years now, hasn't it, for the Green Runners are founded, and you've achieved loads of stuff. You mentioned there's a lot more members maybe than you thought there'd be. When you look at some of the best achievements so far, what would you, if you had to give me let's do a top 3 things you're most proud of so far, and the headband can't be one of them. Good as it is.
There's a few things. I must very quickly mention again my friend Darren Evans, he's actually got water bottles banned from the Brighton Marathon.
Wow.
Even though they're a sponsor, they're sponsored by a water bottle company. But he lives near there, and he was so sort of upset by the amount of plastic waste he would see after the race that he's got the council to effectively, as far as we can tell, ban them, despite them being the sponsor. Now that wasn't strictly a Green Runners campaign, but it just shows what's possible for people. He did that on his own. He went to the council. Really impressive. I'm trying to claim that for ourselves, I guess. But I was quite proud of us standing up to sports washing elsewhere. At UTMB had a high carbon sponsor, and then some other races. We've counted over 30 races internationally. A lot of them are American, but there are some in the UK that have high carbon sponsors, and we feel like there's always more we could do, but we know some sponsorship deals have ended or not been renewed, because I guess the event became aware that wasn't in line with their values, or most of our values. And I can't name the specific event, but yeah, they did, and kudos to them, because sometimes it means accepting less money from a more ethical sponsor. But I think people who have the courage to do that are making such an important gesture. I would, anyone who's vaguely interested in this side of things, do follow Badvertising on social media. They're a great resource for this. So yeah, standing up to sports washing with sort of, I suppose, mixed results, but we've really teamed up with England Athletics as well lately, which is one of those things that takes a long time, but should pay off, in that there's so many clubs, and we're trying to sort of embed sustainability into their standards for race licensing, for example. These are the sort of more bureaucratic sounding things, I suppose, but that could have a real impact down the line. And we're still in a pilot phase, but there's sort of 20 clubs that will have appointed a green champion to sort of push for certain values and practical things in their local clubs, which is good. We were very much involved in the running out of time relay, which happened twice, all the way from Ben Nevis to Big Ben, which was really cool. And just, if you'll let me sneak, I've lost count of how many I'm trying to sneak in here.
More than three, but carry on.
We're also doing some local meetups, definitely very popular in Nottingham, and more recently we launched in Bristol. But if people want to try to connect with green runners local to them, drop us a line, and people are getting together a lot more. We also had a big presence at the National Running Show. We created this Village Green concept, which we tried really hard to make it like a, not anti-consumerism, but a place where you wouldn't be have things pushed in your face to be sold. Yeah. You could admittedly buy some photos and some books there, but and a bit of kit, but the kit was like, pre-loved or fixed, fixed kit.
Yeah.
And we will have a big presence at Love Trails, doing something similar. So I think I've snuck a few extra things in there, Rick, but thanks for...
No, that's good.
But, I mean, the terrifying thing is it always just feels like you're not doing enough and there's so much more to do.
Of course,
But yeah, and we're not patting ourselves on the back too much, but yeah, we are doing some things.
What do you think about shoes that are made out of recycled, like totally recycled shoes? Is that like the answer, or is the answer less shoes?
Yeah, the answer really is less shoes. I looked into this a lot again for my book and just found a real minefield. And some companies are making shoes out of sort of mushroom and sugarcane, and that sounds lovely, doesn't it? But if the shoe only lasts 100 miles, then I'm not I haven't tried those specific shoes. I'm not making accusations, but just hypothetically, if the shoe doesn't last very long, then actually you've got to do more emissions to create the next shoe or repair that one. So I'm not saying that approach won't work further down the line, but at the moment we're not sure that's the right approach. Really, durability, shoes that we can run maybe 1,000 miles or at least 1,000 kilometers in, and really it is companies going, actually we're going to make fewer models. Do we really need 12 different shoes? Why not? Surely, how many shoes do we really need? How many types do we really need? And I'm like most runners, I'm curious when there's a new shoe out, and you kind of think, oh, well, I haven't got that one. So we're all human, but I think really they shouldn't be creating these sort of false, fake desire, or it's desire, but for new products all the time. I think they should be making fewer options that are really good and really last and really fit for purpose. I think that is the solution for now. And unfortunately, durability usually does mean using sort of plastics, which is effectively is oil. So there's this sort of unpleasant irony to it all, where we're dependent on oil to make durable products. But I mean, we'll never totally get rid of oil. But yeah, durability and less really is the solution.
In terms of what people need to do to become a green runner, you said you don't need to give up flying, you don't necessarily need to become a vegan or anything like that, but what the steps you would need to take to say I'm officially a green runner?
So you just go to our website, and we encourage people. We have 4 pillars, and we encourage people. You'd have to make at least one pledge, against one of these pillars, and they are how you move, as in travel, how you fuel, because the third element of all of that is your fueling your food, how you kit up, and how you speak up. And to me, that last one is actually the most important. all anyone has to do is think of a pledge they want to make against one of those, and then there is a small fee which goes to sort of website upkeep and sending out one of these very trendy badges that you could stick on your kit. And I'm seeing more and more on people's, especially on the back of packs is a popular place, or shorts, or trying to cover your increasingly big forehead, which I have, being a man of a certain age. But yeah, that's kind of it really. And then it's sort of up to you. So we thought we definitely want to meet people where they are. Like I say, yeah, you don't have to be vegan or an annoying vegan rather like me, or give up flying. It just doesn't seem fair or realistic, or we just end up a very small group as well. So we really do want all the people. It's just think and yeah, for me the speaking up thing is the most important, and it might even just be having a conversation with your loved ones, or your local running club is a good place, or even just telling people you've joined and that we're not all that weird, although maybe I'm given the case that we are.
What would success look like for the Green Runners in, say, another 3 years? What would you like to say that you've achieved in that time?
I think a big one for us is we are, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but we are trying to launch like a greener races scheme.
Yeah.
But it needs to be, it needs to be done properly. It's not just sort of, with proper, qualified professionals and funding. And that is proving time consuming to do that. But the idea would be, I suppose, that events could learn, how to reduce their footprint and in lots of different ways. I'd love to see that happen. Personally, for me, it would mean no sports washing in the running industry. So no races with high carbon sponsors. And for people who are interested in what counts as high carbon or not, I encourage them to look at the Game Changer sponsorship pledge, which Badvertising are behind. For me personally, that's what I would love to see. And I suppose, maybe 6,000 members by then would be great. I suppose if I'm while you've got me, we would love to get to more Runners World readers and runners, because we've got a really strong presence in the sort of ultra trail and fell running community, and not so much, if I'm honest, in the sort of park run and London Marathon community yet. So thanks for the opportunity to. Well, I've put them all off now, haven't I? With my beard and funny badge, but we'd love to get to, and I think a lot of people, I definitely see this in brands and in events and in individual people, that fear of being not perfect, like of going, I flew last year, or I am planning a holiday, that means I can't. And it's absolutely not like that at all. We live in the real world, and we're just all reasonable people who care, and we're not looking at each other at all and, counting flights or counting burgers, counting new shoes. It's not the point. It's to get together, and push for, I suppose, collective action.
Can we talk about the impact that climate change is having on running? Because it's already here, isn't it? We're already talking about races having to maybe be cancelled or move months. So, like, what's been your experience, and what could be the worry if this isn't in some way kind of slowed down in some way?
Well, the Seb Coe about 2 years ago in a possibly an unguarded comment said that we should, future Olympics might not have a marathon. And just, I mean, that seems unimaginable to, I think, hopefully to, people like me and you. That's like, what? That's the thing I look forward to the most in, or maybe 100 meters, but
100 meters is good as well, isn't it? Yeah. But you're right, it's an integral part.
And even in the Tokyo one, they had to have it much far away from Tokyo, and I can't remember what time it started, but basically the weather, it's getting too hot to run safely. We've got extreme weather events. There was this ultra marathon. It's about 4 years ago now in China. Over 20 people died. Now there could be some specific things related to that event, but it was an extreme weather incident, and people were really caught out. You've got wildfires. We don't get them so much here, although you go up to the Peak District at certain times and you'll see them. That's horrible pollution. It's not always safe to run for people. So you've got I suppose unsafe weather, unsafe running conditions, pollution is a big one, especially where you guys are based in London. I know that's been improving, but that's really scary. It's one of the biggest silent killers in the world is air pollution. So those things, I hope, and then we have seen races cancelled and postponed, including marathons. I think it was the Twin Cities marathon last autumn in America was just sort of cancelled, basically. It wasn't safe, it was too hot to run. And we are seeing more and more of that in certainly in ultra marathon running. I've seen a few like post storms, like there were too many felled trees or something. They haven't been able to recover that area soon enough. So we are seeing races not take place. And definitely again on the ultra running circuit last autumn, there was Ultra Trail Monte Rosa didn't happen. And there was one more, a UTMB one somewhere in Europe that last autumn that couldn't take place. So it really is, it is happening more and more. And so hopefully people are noticing that. Certainly in other sports, there's been a study on, say, football, for example, the amount of stadiums that will be flooded. And I've just, it's much better now, but there's a local rugby pitch near me. Last winter, it was about 3 months. It was just totally flooded. No one played rugby there at all. So I guess that's more widely into sport, but it really is sort of happening now.
If you want to sign up then to become a green runner, what's the website? Tell us where they can go.
I should definitely know this, shouldn't I?
I bet it's the Green Runners something.
Yes, thegreenrunners.com. We have sort of launched a newish website fairly recently. So you just go along and sign up, and it's I think it's less than a £5, although you can pledge more. And like I say, it's really straightforward, and you just pledge what you want to pledge. We're not and you join thousands of other runners around the world. You'll get regular emails with all sorts of things you can join in with if you want. There are local meetups starting to happen. There are things like love trails, but I just love. I mean, part of this is when I see certain headlines coming along about climate breakdown. I mean, I find it quite stressful and quite upsetting and quite worrying about the future for my children. But simply seeing another Green Runners badge on a race, now it doesn't fix it in its own right, but it is quite comforting just being part of a community. All that badge says to me is I care about stuff as well, and I find that really helpful for my mental health. I would say I haven't formed the Green Runners just to help my mental health, but it is hopefully there's a strong sense of community that people will be joining.
Damian, thank you so much for your time coming on Runners World Podcast talking about this incredibly important subject. So we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Happy running.
If you haven't heard already, Runners World has got a club.
That's right, 30 years in the making, the Runners World Club is here to take your running even further.
And as our dedicated viewers, listeners and fans, let's say fans, we wanted to tell you more about it. So we've got a guest here to talk about it.
That's right, we're here with our friend and colleague Jen Bazon, Membership Director, to learn more. So Jen, tell us, what exactly is the Runners World Club?
So Runners World Club is our best ever brand experience and gives readers access to a multitude of benefits, experiences and rewards, in addition to receiving the print magazine every month. And a membership to Runners World Club really does give you everything you could possibly need to get fitter, faster and healthier.
You could do with a bit of that.
Me? Yeah. Does sound good actually, yeah.
Yeah. What do people get, Jen? What is included in a membership?
So we've got 3 different tiers of membership: bronze, silver and gold. And our gold membership is our sort of top tier, all singing, all dancing membership. And with that, you get access to our brand new training plan library via our reimagined companion app. You get access to award-winning training platform Final Surge, which gives you the ability to sync Runners World plans with your training devices. So with your Garmin, Apple Watch, Sunto, Polo, whatever your kind of preference. And that means that you can follow training sessions in real time on your watch with guided prompts. So it saves you having to sort of memorise interval sessions and things like that, as it's all programmed into your watch. You also receive our monthly print magazine, our weekly Runners World Club newsletter, and you get full access to the reimagined companion app, where you can access discounts and deals from running and fitness brands, and you also get access to exclusive gold member only content. So it's jam packed with benefits.
And there are these live events, aren't there? Spencer Matthews was seen on last weekend with Runners World, and Susie Chan. So tell us about those.
Yes, very exciting. So what we wanted to do with membership was give our members the chance to meet and get to know each other, as well as the Runners World team and celebrity guests as well. So yeah, we hosted our first event the day before the London Marathon with Spencer Matthews, Susie Chan at the Samsung store in King's Cross, and it was a lot of fun. We had 85 runners there, and we did a shakeout run and Q&A, and it was very exciting, and the feedback was brilliant. So we're already excitedly planning our next one.
Excellent.
Let's get into the guts of this. Training plans.
Yes.
It's going to be the main draw. Lots of people have probably used the Runners World training plan across their many years of running. What are the training plans looking like?
Yeah, so our training plans have been written by Tom Craggs, Robbie Britton and Georgia Wood, and we've produced this brand new library which you can get via the app, and they span from 5k to ultramarathon. And what's really brilliant is runners now have the ability to customise those plans according to their training preferences. So if you want to, say you've got a marathon coming up in 20 weeks' time and you're targeting 3 hours, 45 minutes, and you want to do 3 to 4 runs per week, you just put that into the filter and you'll be served a tailored plan. And in addition to that, every 4 weeks in those plans, there's the opportunity to kind of reflect on how your training's going and choose an alternative plan if it's not quite working out. So say that kind of 3:45 time goal was a little bit punchy, you can sort of change to 4 hours. So that self-reflection kind of ensures you sort of are following the plan that is actually right for you.
Right, I want in. How do I join?
So you can join by clicking the link in the episode description or searching Runners World Club and signing up via the Hearst Magazine's website. And it's priced at $9.99 for your first 3 months, which is an absolute bargain.
A steal.
That is an absolute deal.